The night was supposed to be nothing more than a fleeting escape, a moment of excitement with no strings attached. At least, that's what he told himself. He wasn't the kind of guy who got caught up in emotions. Love, commitment, all of that. It wasn't in his plans. Not now, not ever. But sometimes, life has a way of turning even the most casual decisions into something far more complicated. It started with a chance meeting, the kind that felt like pure coincidence, but had the weight of something bigger. She wasn't just beautiful, there was something about her that made it impossible to look away. Maybe it was the way she carried herself, the quiet confidence in her voice, or the way her laughter seemed to linger even after she had stopped. Whatever it was, he told himself it didn't matter. One night, that was all it was supposed to be. They met, they talked, and before he even realized it, he was drawn in. He wasn't the type to believe in fate, but for the first time in a long time, he felt something stir inside him. Something dangerous. Something real. But reality has a way of creeping back in. The next morning, he reminded himself of the rules. No attachments, no second thoughts. He had been down this road before, and he knew how it ended. People always leave, feelings fade, and the best way to avoid pain was to never let it in. So, he walked away. No texts, no calls. It was over before it even had a chance to begin. At least, that's what he thought. Because as much as he tried to push her out of his mind, she was everywhere. A scent in the air that reminded him of her, a song playing in a cafe, a fleeting memory that surfaced at the most unexpected moments. And with each reminder, a realization began to settle in this. Wasn't just a fling. He had told himself he wouldn't care, but now it was all he could think about. Then came the unexpected moment that changed everything. A familiar voice in a crowded place. A pair of eyes locking onto his across the room. He hadn't planned on seeing her again. He hadn't planned on feeling the rush of emotions that hit him the second she looked at him. But there she was. And suddenly, all the reasons he had to walk away didn't seem to matter anymore. But had he already lost his chance? Was she even willing to hear him out, or had she moved on just like he had planned to? What happens next changes everything. He never meant for it to be anything serious. It was supposed to be simple, no attachments, no complications, just two people enjoying the moment. He had always been good at keeping his emotions in check, never letting himself get too close. That's how he had lived for years, believing that love was nothing more than an illusion, a temporary rush that always faded. But sometimes, no matter how much you try to control your feelings, life has other plans. It started on a night that felt like any other. He wasn't looking for anything special, and he definitely wasn't looking for her. But the moment their eyes met across the room, something shifted. There was something about her, something different. Maybe it was the way she carried herself, graceful but not forced, confident but not intimidating. Or maybe it was the way she smiled, as if she knew a secret the rest of the world hadn't figured out yet. Whatever it was, he was drawn in before he even realized it. The conversation came easy, as if they had known each other forever. They laughed, they teased, and for the first time in a long time, he let his guard down. It wasn't about the future, and it wasn't about the past. It was just about that night, that moment, and the way she made him feel like nothing else mattered. One night. That was all it was supposed to be. He told himself that as he watched her fall asleep beside him, her breath steady, her presence so familiar yet so new. He told himself that again in the morning, as he quietly got dressed, leaving before things could become anything more. It was better this way. No expectations, no goodbyes, no messy emotions to untangle later. But walking away didn't feel as easy as it used to. Days passed, then weeks, but she never really left his mind. He caught himself replaying little moments, the way she laughed when he said something ridiculous, the way she tucked her hair behind her ear when she was thinking, "It wasn't supposed to be like this." He had never looked back before. Why was this different? He convinced himself it was just curiosity. He wasn't attached, not really. He just wanted to know how she was doing, maybe send a quick message, nothing serious. But each time he picked up his phone, he put it back down. What would he even say? That he couldn't stop thinking about her? That he had spent years avoiding love, and now, for some reason, she was the one person he couldn't forget? It didn't make sense. And yet, it was happening. Then came the moment he never saw coming. He was out, lost in his own thoughts, when he heard a familiar laugh. His heart stopped before he even turned around. And there she was. She looked different, but not in a way he could explain. Maybe it was just the fact that she wasn't his anymore, not that she ever really was. She was talking to someone, smiling in that effortless way of hers, and for the first time, he felt something he never expected: regret. He had walked away because he thought it was easier. He thought he was protecting himself. But now, standing there, watching her from a distance, he realized something he had been too afraid to admit. Maybe, just maybe, he had made a mistake. And if he had, was it already too late to fix it? He told himself to walk away. She hadn't seen him yet, and maybe it was better that way. But his feet wouldn't move. Instead, he just stood there, watching as she laughed at something the other guy said. It was a small thing, just a laugh, but it hit him harder than he expected. This was what he wanted, wasn't it? To move on, to keep things simple. No attachments. No complicated feelings. But then why did it feel like something was slipping through his fingers? He turned away before she could notice him, but the moment was already burned into his mind. The way she looked at that guy, it wasn't forced, it wasn't distant. It was real. And he hated that he knew the difference. The thought followed him for days, creeping in when he least expected it. He tried to push it away, focus on anything else, but his mind kept circling back to her. To them, to whatever it was they had shared that night. And then, as if the universe was playing some kind of cruel joke, he ran into her again. This time, there was no avoiding it. She saw him first. He could tell by the way she hesitated, like she wasn't sure if she should say something. He almost wished she wouldn't, because he had no idea what he was supposed to say. But she did. Hey. Just a simple word, but it carried more weight than it should have. He nodded, forcing a small smile. Hey. For a moment, they just stood there, caught in some unspoken tension. It wasn't awkward, not exactly, but it wasn't easy either. You look good, she said finally, her voice careful. So do you. And she did. Maybe even better than he remembered. Or maybe that was just because now she was standing in front of him again, close enough for him to see every little detail he had spent weeks trying to forget. She glanced away for a second, tucking her hair behind her ear, a habit he hadn't even realized he'd memorized until now. I didn't expect to see you again. Yeah, he said, shoving his hands into his pockets. Same. The silence stretched between them, and he could feel the words neither of them were saying. He wanted to ask her if she had thought about him at all. If she had felt the same pull he had, or if he had been nothing more than a passing moment in her life. But then, before he could figure out what to say next, she glanced over her shoulder. He followed her gaze and saw him. The guy from the other night. The one she had been laughing with. Something tightened in his chest, but he forced his expression to stay neutral. I should go, she said, her voice softer now. And just like that, the moment was slipping away again. Yeah, he said, nodding. Of course. She hesitated for a fraction of a second, like maybe she wanted to say something else. But then she just gave him a small smile and walked away. He stood there long after she was gone, staring at the empty space where she had been. And for the first time in a long time, he found himself wondering. Had he let go of something he was never supposed to lose? He told himself it didn't matter. That seeing her again was just a coincidence, and that whatever was between them had ended the moment he walked away. But the truth sat heavy in his chest, refusing to be ignored. Days passed, but the thought of her didn't fade. If anything, it got stronger. Every time he closed his eyes, he could still hear her voice, still see the way she had looked at him, like she was waiting for something he hadn't been brave enough to say. And then, almost as if fate wasn't done with him yet, he saw her again. This time, she wasn't alone. It was late, the streets quiet except for the occasional car passing by. He hadn't meant to be here, hadn't meant to be anywhere near the places where she might be. But as he turned the corner, there she was. She was walking with him, the same guy. And from the way she was looking up at him, something in his chest twisted. He knew he had no right to be jealous. No right to feel anything at all. But he did. And for the first time, he let himself admit it. He cared. The realization hit him harder than he expected. He had spent so long avoiding this exact feeling, pushing people away before they could ever get too close. But she had gotten close without him even realizing it. And now, he was watching her slip away. He should have turned around, should have let it go. But his feet had a mind of their own, carrying him closer until he was standing just a few steps away. She noticed him first. Her eyes widened slightly, and for a brief moment, everything else faded away. It was just them again, caught in a moment neither of them had planned for. The guy beside her followed her gaze, turning to see what had caught her attention. His expression was unreadable, but he didn't say anything. Neither did she. The silence stretched between them, and he felt the weight of everything unsaid. This was it. The moment where he either walked away for good, or finally did something about it. She was the first to look away. It was quick, just a flicker of hesitation, before she turned her attention back to the guy beside her. But he caught it. That brief moment where she seemed unsure, caught between something old and something new. It should have been enough for him to walk away. To take the hint, accept that whatever had been between them was already slipping through his fingers. But instead, he found himself speaking before he could stop himself. "Hey." His voice was steady, but his pulse was anything but. She hesitated before answering. "Hey." It was quiet, careful, like she wasn't sure what this was or what it meant. The guy beside her glanced between them, sensing the tension. "You know him?" His tone was casual, but there was something else beneath it. A hint of curiosity, maybe even suspicion. She nodded slowly, still looking at him. "Yeah. We used to know each other." The words stung more than they should have. Used to. Past tense. Like what they had was nothing more than a memory. He could have left it at that. Let her walk away, and let this be the ending he had been too afraid to face. But something inside him refused to let go. "Can we talk?" The words came out before he had time to second-guess them. Her expression shifted shock, maybe even a hint of something else. Uncertainty. She glanced at the guy beside her, like she wasn't sure what the right answer was. "We don't have to do this," the guy said, his voice calm but firm. Not aggressive, but protective, like he could already see the storm brewing. And that's when it hit him. This wasn't just some guy. This was real. Serious. Maybe even everything he had been too afraid to offer her. But before he could say anything else, before she could decide whether to stay or walk away for good, something unexpected happened. Her phone buzzed in her hand. She glanced down at the screen, and whatever she saw made her expression shift. Her face went pale, her breath hitching just slightly. It was quick, so quick, that if he hadn't been watching her so closely, he might have missed it. But he didn't miss it. And in that moment, he knew. Something was wrong. Her fingers hovered over the screen, her body suddenly tense. He could see it the way her shoulders stiffened, the way her breathing changed. Whatever message she had just read, it wasn't good. For a second, she looked like she might say something, but instead, she just swallowed hard and turned to the guy beside her. "I have to go." His brows pulled together. "What? Now?" She nodded, already moving, her steps quick, almost frantic. "Yeah, I just need to take care of something." He grabbed her wrist gently, concern flashing in his eyes. "Hey, what's going on?" She hesitated, glancing between him and the phone still clutched in her hand. Her lips parted like she wanted to explain, but no words came out. Instead, she pulled away. "I'll call you later, okay?" And then she was gone, disappearing into the night before either of them could stop her. He stood frozen, watching her retreating figure, his pulse pounding in his ears. He had spent so much time convincing himself that he didn't care, that he had no right to feel anything at all. But now, watching her rush off like that, something deep inside him twisted. The guy beside him sighed, shaking his head. "This isn't the first time," he muttered under his breath. That caught his attention. "What do you mean?" The guy hesitated, like he wasn't sure if he should say anything. But then, after a moment, he exhaled. "She does this sometimes. Vanishes. Won't say why. Just leaves." A strange, uneasy feeling settled in his chest. This wasn't just about him anymore. Something else was going on. Something bigger. And for the first time, since all of this started, he wasn't just thinking about how much he wanted her back. He was thinking about whether she was safe. That uneasy feeling stayed with him long after she disappeared. He wasn't sure what was happening, but something about the way she left didn't sit right. It wasn't just that she was in a hurry, it was the look on her face, the tension in her body. Like she was running from something. He glanced at the guy beside him, trying to make sense of what he had just said. "She does this a lot." The guy sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. "Not all the time, but yeah. She gets like this sometimes. Just shuts down, won't tell anyone what's wrong." I've stopped asking. That answer wasn't good enough. He wanted to know why. What was she dealing with that made her leave like that? And why hadn't he noticed it before? Before he could stop himself, he pulled out his phone and scrolled to her name. He hesitated for a second, debating if he should even reach out, but his gut told him he had to. He tapped out a simple message. "Are you okay?" Minutes passed with no response. He tried to push down the frustration building inside him. Maybe she was just busy. Maybe she didn't want to talk to him, but he couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Then, just as he was about to put his phone away, it vibrated in his hand. "I'm fine. Don't worry." That was it. Nothing else. Not even an explanation. It wasn't enough. He knew he shouldn't push, knew that he had no right to demand answers. But the way his heart pounded told him that walking away wasn't an option. Not this time. He made a decision before he could second-guess himself. He was going to find her. It wasn't hard. He remembered the places she used to go when she needed space, the quiet spots where she could be alone with her thoughts. It was a gamble, but something told him he'd find her there. And he was right. She was sitting on the edge of a bench, her head down, her fingers gripping her phone like she was waiting for something, maybe dreading something. She didn't even notice him until he was standing right in front of her. When she looked up, there was a flicker of surprise in her eyes, quickly replaced by something else. A guarded expression, like she was bracing herself. "You didn't have to come," she said softly. "Yeah, I did." His voice was steady, but there was something behind it, something he hadn't fully admitted until now. She let out a shaky breath and looked away. "I told you, I'm fine. You're not." Silence stretched between them, heavy with everything unsaid. She stared at the ground, her fingers tightening around her phone. He could see the battle happening inside her, the struggle between wanting to talk and wanting to keep it all buried. Finally, she exhaled and whispered, "I got a message tonight. From someone I never wanted to hear from again." His jaw tightened. "Who?" She hesitated. "Someone from my past. Someone who knows how to hurt me." his hands curled into fists at his sides. Is he dangerous? She didn't answer right away, but the way she swallowed hard told him enough. Why didn't you tell anyone? He asked, trying to keep his voice calm. Because it doesn't matter, she said, shaking her head. I've dealt with it before. I'll deal with it again. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. You don't have to deal with it alone. She met his eyes then, something flickering in them. Why do you care? That question hit him harder than it should have. Maybe because it was the first time she had said it out loud, forcing him to face what he had been trying to deny. I just do. His voice was quiet, but there was no hesitation. She searched his face, like she was trying to figure out if she could believe him. Then slowly, she let out a breath and nodded. Okay. It wasn't much, but it was a start. That night, for the first time in a long time, he didn't walk away. He stayed, listening as she really talked about the things she had been holding inside. And somewhere in the middle of all of it, he realized something. Maybe what he had been running from all along wasn't love. Maybe it was the fear of needing someone just as much as they needed him. And maybe, just maybe, he wasn't afraid anymore.